Hey everyone, thank you for joining us. It's me, Sarah Blessing, and I'm with Kristy Knable. And today we are talking about LIfeWise. Here in Southern Indiana, it's a fast growing program and it's pulling public school kids out of class during the school day for off campus Bible lessons. Lawmakers in Indiana have made it easier for districts to allow this, but families are seeing the real world trade offs: library time cut, specials disrupted, and kids who don't go sometimes are left with busy work. Supporters say it's legal and parent driven. Critics say it blurs church and state and pressures kids inside public schools. Tonight, we're laying out what LIfeWise is, how it's affecting classrooms in Floyd County, and where the Constitution actually draws the line. And I'm going to interview my friend, Kristy Knable, who has been closely following this. Kristy, how are you doing? Thank you so much for being with us.
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
All right. So let's sum this up, go over it, and then if anybody's watching live, feel free to ask any questions. So we're talking about Southern Indiana, this program called LIfeWise. It's already up and active in Floyd County. Where other counties is it active? Do you know?
They have a 10-step process to get into schools, and they have started that process in every county in Indiana, as far as I understand.
Okay, so they're trying to get it passed in every county. It's already here in Floyd County. That's where I grew up. I now live in Harrison. You live in Floyd County, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And basically, kids get they send home some sort of note about it, and they can sign up. Parents think they're sending their kid to this like innocent, nice Christian Bible type school, but it's actually more like Christian nationalism type Christianity, which we will talk about in a little bit, correct? And then
Correct.
they have to, in order for the separation of church and state, they have to leave the building. So they're being put in some like van and transported to what, a church?
Wherever they work out for each school, like
Okay, so each school
the
is different.
location is different. Yeah.
And as I'm aware of it, the public schools cannot say no. Is that correct?
Correct. There's no process for them to get approved in Indiana. I'll give you a little bit of history. In 1952, there was a Supreme Court case. It was Zorak versus something in New York, and that case set the precedent that parents do have the right to have their kids removed from school to have religious instruction time, as long as it's off campus. The program provides their own transportation, and the school doesn't promote it, and it doesn't have any expenses. The school doesn't have any expenses incurred because of the program. So this law has been around since 1952. That there was the opportunity for, it's called release time religious instruction. And you might hear me say RTRI. That just means any program that where the kids are removed during the school day to get their Bible or their religious instruction and then taken back to the school. So LIfeWise has been lobbying. They've got this big organization based in Ohio, and they have been lobbying to get states' laws changed so that the roadblock that RTRI programs would often run into is they would have to get their program approved by a school board.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of times the community didn't like the idea because honestly, it's a really bad idea to disrupt the school day whenever I know,
It's
I
bonkers to
know.
me that like principals, superintendents, teachers have absolutely no say. All of a sudden they're like, you have all these standards. We're defunding your schools to support charter and religious schools. Every year it gets worse for Indiana public schools. And now you don't even have the right. Your kids are leaving the classroom. And it seems ridiculous to me. They can't be like, no, if my child, if these kids really want religious schooling, they can get a voucher and go to a religious school. It just seems bonkers to me that we're taking out like the permission from the main people running the school.
Right. They have no say so. They have no say so. What they have a say so in is when during the day LifeWise can come in and get the kids. And so Indiana's law was changed in 2024.
This last
Before,
legislative session.
yeah,
Yes.
in 2024, not
Right.
in
Oh, okay. Not
2025.
2025. Oh, okay.
So they and LifeWise lobbied for this, and was able to get it successfully changed so that we don't have, in Indiana, no longer have to get approval from the school board, and you don't have to get approval from the principal. They just have to coordinate the time for the instruction.
Now, do the parents that are signing up for this, so they're getting some paper saying, do you want your kid to leave the school building to get Bible school during the day? Did they give a detailed plan of what these kids are learning? Because it's very obvious there are many different types of Christianity, like thousands of different churches just in our country alone, many different versions. Are the parents at least aware of what type of Bible instruction these kids are getting?
What LifeWise says is that they are ecumenical Bible teachings, or they'll say that they're interdenominational. And those two words have always meant that they're Christian based, and that they focus on the things that all the denominations agree on. But that's not what LifeWise is really teaching. They are teaching, if you look at their curriculum, which they make it very hard for parents to investigate their curriculum. There was a parent that got a hold of the curriculum and posted it on his website to inform other parents, and LifeWise sued that parent for $150,000. They ended up settling the case, and the only thing that parent wanted in the settlement was that the requirement for LifeWise to make the curriculum public. So you can go to the LifeWise website.
It just doesn't
And
seem very Christian of them to sue the person for just plainly stating their curriculum. So we've got this seems a little fishy to me if you're suing the person that's just like, here's what they're teaching the kids in the public
right.
schools when they're taking them out. Yeah.
And the curriculum they used was written by a publishing arm of the Southern Baptist Convention. So it is evangelical. And, the thing that I can't stop thinking about is, do you really want, they say that it's Christian moral instruction. Do you really want an organization teaching your kid about moral instruction when they're being deceitful from the get-go on what they're actually teaching?
And
We
they're
had
forcing their way into the schools.
right,
They don't
right,
want this.
right,
They want to
exactly.
teach the children the Indiana academic standards. They have 180 days to do it, and it's very difficult to have that instruction time, and we're cutting that, and then we're taking kids out. So like I'm a former teacher. I taught 5th grade for 18 years. Every once in a while we'd have like a Boy Scouts meeting and all the boys would leave. Well, I can't teach new curriculum or review important content when half of my students are gone. So we would do something else, but that's not standards teaching. So it hurts the kids that are leaving and it hurts the kids that are still there. I've heard in Floyd County that they're missing a lot of library time, which if I can ever think of a time in this world where we should be reading books and learning from all kinds of diverse people, it would be now in 2025. So I'm alarmed that they're missing library time as well. Have you heard that they're missing library time a lot?
I'm not sure what the setup is like in Greenville Elementary, where they've already been holding LifeWise classes. But the ideal is to have it during lunch or recess, but or during the
Specials.
non-core, yeah,
Yeah.
during the
Art,
specials. So yeah,
music,
they are,
computer.
and like in your example with the Boy Scouts, that was a one-time event. This is every single week
Yeah,
that
that's a
the
lot.
teachers have to work around, and it does take away from the other students. And LifeWise, They are very skilled at marketing, and they will tell you, this is a wonderful thing that, parents have a choice to send their kids to Bible instruction during the school day, and they phrase it to where it's a wonderful thing, but they don't want to talk about how it affects the rest of the students. And
And
it
also
it does it
they're
does
not
impact.
coming, they're not being forthright in what they're teaching the students. Like,
Exactly.
and
So
it's
they
really hard to get information. And what age group are these classes targeted to?
They okay, so they have a range where they have determined that, first of all, let me start with, they this RTRI concept in our law was meant to be an avenue for, communities that didn't have access to religious instruction during the day in their public schools, for, communities to come together and agree that, like, hey, we need to have something for our schools, maybe some Muslim community or whatever, and, as a community they make that choice. That's not what's happening now. LifeWise has forced themselves in, and they're lying about their curriculum, and they talk about, like, they have said that their mission statement is not their mission statement, but they have said that they see public schools as the mission field. And for anybody that doesn't know what that means in evangelical terms, like, they want this to use this program. They want to get into public schools and use kids that are in the program to bring in more students. Like, they will not be
So they're trying to
satisfied until
convince the
everyone.
kids that are going, convince your friends to join. Okay.
Yes, and
Okay.
that was never what the RTRI was meant to be.
So it was meant to
RTRI,
be different types of religious instruction on different not this one type of evangelical Christian nationalism where they won't tell us what they're teaching the kids. So it sort of seems like they're programming the kids religious propaganda during public school instruction time. That's what it seems like.
yes, and they want the children. They'll send the kids home with trinkets, candy, toys. They'll
Oh,
give
so
them
they come back to class with fun stuff
so
and they
so
the other
young
kids be like,
kids.
don't I want to be that too. I want to go and get the prizes. I want to get the candy. Oh, I didn't know that. That's icky. Okay.
Yeah, it's really icky, and their target, they have determined that 4 years old to 14-year-old kids are, um the most impressionable.
So they're starting this
The
as early as 4?
Well, I mean, we don't have any public schools that have 4-year-olds, but yeah, they
I
they
mean,
want they
there's
want the younger the
preschool kids.
better.
Okay, so they're starting at kindergarten.
They're starting in the earlier grades first, and then they'll move up to the older grades. But
Well, because they got to indoctrinate them young. Oh
well,
man.
and
Jeez.
they know that that's when, if they can get kids to convert, or, be indoctrinated with this information, with this ideology, they're more likely to stick with it if they get them young,
Right.
get them from a young age.
And,
And
and I'm like,
that
I
is,
have friends that grew up this way in like a evangelical church type situation, and they've gotten out of it, and they're a little bit traumatized. They have some trauma, some religious trauma from being taught this sort of extreme evangelical Christianity. Let's talk a little bit about what it is, because a lot of us are Christian. I grew up Christian. I grew up Methodist, but I had a youth pastor come in that did a lot of harm to me and a lot of other youth, and her version of Christianity was more evangelical. It was the version where if you don't feel the Holy Spirit come down to you and you don't accept Jesus Christ as your savior, you're going to hell. And all of your friends are going to hell unless you save them. You personally have to save them. And so it's very centered on let the Holy Spirit come and accept Jesus into your heart, and then you're saved, and it doesn't matter what else you do the rest of your life, you're going to heaven. And so it was all very like scare tactics. And so it's very different from like I grew up Methodist. Well, the real Methodists, they didn't say that, but my youth pastor did. So that's what I thought was the right thing. Can you break down a little bit about why this version of Christianity is probably pretty alarming to most people that might think a Christian Bible school once a week sounds like a nice idea?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one thing that made me so passionate about this topic, is because I have a history in the evangelical church and I understand the harms of Christian nationalism. I grew up Catholic, went to a Catholic school. Then we stopped going to church for a while. And when I was 15, I went to a Southern Baptist youth convention with my friend. Her dad was the pastor of a church here in Floyd's Knobs, a Southern Baptist church. And it was nothing. I had never experienced anything like that before. The speaker was speaking about, I guess he had had some child abuse, and it was a very moving story. And at the end of the story, he talks about how God changed his life for the better. And it's, you're very emotional. And my understanding was like, if you want to be saved and know that you're going to heaven, we have people who will pray with you. So I went, I raised my hand because I wanted to do whatever I could do to get to heaven, if it didn't sound like a bad thing, I wanted to be a good person and follow Jesus. And went back and somebody prayed the sinner's prayer with me. And I so I started go oh so we got it back in the church van after that was over. And my friends who were Southern Baptists, they told me like what I needed to do next was to start going to church. And but don't go to the Catholic church because they're going to hell, because they pray to Mary and they pray to the saints and the Bible specifically. They gave me the whole theological reason why all of my Catholic family was going to hell. And,
It has to be scary for you to hear that.
well, it made me very sad and very concerned, and I was just an impressionable young person that,
How old were you?
just, I was 15.
Ah, yeah.
So, I just wanted to, I just wanted to be a good person. And, it's like they were very sure that this is the way
Yeah,
to
they're
be a
so
good
certain.
person.
I had that happen to
Yes.
me too. They're like, "We've got it figured out. Here's how you get to heaven. Now you got to save all of your friends and family that are going to hell." And it's just like you got to do these very specific things. So it's like, "Oh, okay, you're checking off boxes. Okay, I got to do all these things." And when you're a kid, you're trying so hard to be good, especially as a woman, as a girl. You're told to be kind and to listen and be respectful and be meek and all those things. So you're like, "Okay, what do I need to do next?" So my heart goes out to you, this 15-year-old Kristy, because they're so certain and you're uncertain as a 15-year-old. So you're like,
Mhm.
okay, okay, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, they seemed so certain and confident that what they were saying was true. And so I spent probably, I think I was in evangelical churches for the next 18 years,
Oh,
maybe,
wow.
maybe longer than that. No, it was probably more like 28 years I went to
Wow.
evangelical churches. And so I was in it. And there is like a very, honestly, the crux of the matter is, they, in their theology, they just in their teachings, it's always pitting the world against us as evangelicals.
The war on Christianity.
Yes. I was told, I really believe, because I was told, over, like, they have a very strong message that the world hates you because you love Jesus. And they reaffirm that in messages like, this is the most important thing. And it really is
So it makes
to
you very
even,
scared of anything outside of that little bubble in your religion. Oh no, I've lost you, Kristy.
Sorry. That was my computer screen. Yeah, it makes you, yeah, and it's, there's a lot of teachings that it's like the teachings were about, healing. I went to, more charismatic evangelical churches. We were taught about healing, about prophecy, about righteousness, grace, all of these things. And it hit me one day. I was driving down the road, and I'll never forget just this, like, acknowledging this emptiness that I had. And it bothered me. It bothered me that I never heard any messages about love preached, loving your neighbor, and what that means. And from when I was Catholic, I mean, from a young age, we learned about, oh, there was a charity that we did, UNICEF. We always did that a couple times a year. We would watch a video about the children that we were
Yeah, there's a
going to
lot
be
of outreach
collecting
in
money
community. Was there
for.
not the evangelical church? Did they not do a lot of like helping the community and helping people struggling?
So it was always with strings attached. There was never just helping someone to meet their needs and be the hands and feet of Christ, bringing love to people and accepting them as they are. They would do those things. They would do the charity work with strings attached. They wanted to use that as an avenue to bring you into the flock, to get you saved, to keep, and there's a lot of good meaning people
Oh
in
yeah.
the evangelical
I have
church.
friends that are in this type of religion, and I love them dearly. There's a lot of good people in these types of religious practices. So yeah, I
Yeah,
agree
and
with you there.
well-meaning,
But they legit
well-meaning.
believe, they legit think if they don't save all their friends and family, they're going to hell. So they've got this like panic of, I've got to get to as many people as possible, which is good for the church, because if you can get more people into that church, then your church grows and there's more money there, and then they can keep doing their mission. So I get what you're saying. I've told this one other time, maybe a couple times, but we have this in Palmyra. There are some of these churches around here. One of my Micah is 15, and a couple years ago at a birthday party, one of his friends came up to him crying. It wasn't a birthday party. It was just a regular day. And crying and telling Micah, I'm scared you're going to go to hell. You don't go to church. And Micah came and told me, and I had to go and comfort this kid and say, I promise my kid is not going to hell. We are fine. You don't have to worry about it. And I said, but that is so sweet that you care about my son. I really appreciate it. But it was very alarming to my 15-year-old. Like, what are they telling these kids? They're
Right.
traumatizing these kids because they're just like, they're gonna go to hell.
Yeah, yeah, and it is like the number one message that's taught. And you're taught that the world is against you because you love Jesus. And evangelicals create this community where they just fellowship with themselves.
And
And
they
any
close off the world. They don't want to read books that are like secular, and they don't want to listen to secular music. They should be listening
Yes.
to Christian music. So yes, it's a different world than like Catholic or Methodist or some other types of Christianity, Presbyterian. There's lots of ones where it's like you can still interact with people in the real world and do all the regular things, that are moral or whatever. But this version is very closed off, protecting you from things that might get you out of your bubble, I guess is what I would call it. I don't know.
Right, exactly. I mean, and with all the teachings, it's like I really felt like at this point in my life where I kind of had a crisis of faith. It was like I put myself in this box, and it was led by the evangelical teachings. I put myself in this box, and the box felt very safe because the box is black and white. Are you going to hell or are you not going to hell? And I was not going to hell, and that felt very safe to me. And another thing about evangelicalism that I don't know if other people haven't been in evangelical churches understand, there in all that fellowship that we do together, there are so many conversations about politics. It is like
Mm.
politics and faith are so intertwined because of this spiritual battle that you're convinced that you need to be fighting. I mean, Fox News was on my TV at all times. I listened to conservative talk radio, and there was so much of this, like, this fear, this constant message of fear. And being in my box made me feel safe. And
So you're
this,
told all these things are scary, so you better stay in here. They're giving you the
yes.
fear to keep you in, to keep you trapped. I just listened to a great two-part episode on Flightless Bird with David Farrier. He's a reporter and he does documentaries, and he just did a two-part on Christian music. And I my parents let me listen to whatever music I wanted. My church never had a thing about it, but again, that youth pastor, she got us all listening to Christian music, and my favorite band was DC Talk. And now we know the lead singer of DC Talk that went on to be in another even bigger band, Newsboys or something. Um, Horrible monster of a person
Oh, I
would
didn't know
give.
that.
Yes, he would give young kids, like young teenagers, he would drug them and
Oh
then
my
assault them.
gosh.
And there's tons of kids coming out. There are adults now saying, he did this to me. He did this to me. In the Christian world that this group was making a lot of money, they let him do this to so many young people that were huge fans of him. And then their music is all praising how great Jesus is and everything. So if you want to know more about the Christian music aspect, Flightless Bird, it's on where you get your podcasts. I did not know. I listened to DC Talk as a kid, thought they were a great band. But then in that episode, they also talk about how they would help with Christian nationalism in politics. So these bands were led to help Trump win. They were led to get more religion into politics, which we're seeing now in Indiana. So it is a big plan. They are working together. So, how did you get out?
Well, of evangelicalism,
Yeah.
I went back to I didn't really know where to start, so I went back to my Catholic church from my childhood.
Were you
And
just feeling empty? You just felt like something was
oh yeah,
missing?
I felt tremendous, and it was a nagging emptiness that I had felt for a while. And it started like I couldn't stop thinking about it. Why don't we ever hear messages about love?
So
You
you're
know, it's
missing the
like that's the
love, and
whole
that started
reason
coming up.
that
Okay.
Jesus came. That's the whole point of the story, is that he came for all of us, and he came to show us what love is. And there aren't a lot of teachings from Jesus on Sunday mornings. The teachings from the pulpit are about rules.
Ugh.
And we hear about things like, you know like I said, speaking in tongues or prophecies or, grace, honoring people, but never about love. And like that's the whole point of Christianity. And so, and the sad thing about being in that box is I put God in there with me. I put God in this little box, and I limited who I thought God was. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
God was black and white, and
Mhm.
black and white felt safe, and it was pretty scary, going into a world where things weren't black and white. But I knew God was with me, and I knew He understood the questions that I had. And that's another thing about evangelicalism: you are discouraged from asking questions, from questioning any of the
Mm.
teaching. If you question the teaching, they spin that around that you're letting the devil influence you.
Ooh.
Yeah, and it's really a lot of
You
like
know, I just
crazy
remembered
mind
this
stuff.
because I have my own evangelical messed upness too, Chrissy, and you're
That's
helping
awesome.
me remember mine. So I read the New Testament like every night. Every night I would read a chapter of the New Testament, and I ended up reading the New Testament like 4 times. And I'm processing what my youth pastor would tell us. And I would read it and I'd go, nowhere in the book, nowhere in the New Testament does it say this stuff. It doesn't say give your heart to Jesus and then no matter what, you're going to heaven and everybody else is going to hell. So the basic principles of what I was constantly being told weren't in my version of the Bible. So I asked another adult that was part of the youth if she knew about it. And she looked and she's like, I can't find it either. So this adult and I started to back away and be like, wait a minute. So my own questioning with reading the Bible pulled me out. And so it's interesting. Yours was a lack of love and of limiting who your version of God was, whereas mine was like just the fact based of the things you're telling me aren't even in this book that we're supposed to be basing everything off of.
Well, I
Yeah.
had a lot of that too. I had a lot of that over the years. I mean, I went to this church that sometimes the services would be 3 hours long,
Wow.
and it was un- it's almost unbearable for me to sit that long and listen. And so I would just start reading my Bible, and I would read around the verses that the pastor would, talk about. He would just, pull out one verse and then talk about what that meant. And I would read the verses around it. And I'm like, I don't think that that's what the Bible's, I don't think that that's saying
Yeah.
what he
So you're
says
doing
it's
it too.
saying.
So you
Yeah,
were
I
doing
mean,
it
it
too.
was so
Yeah.
it was a long history,
Yeah.
but
That's
then
interesting.
also, I mean, you have the mind, just the messed up mind tricks that, if I start questioning it and I start feeling guilty for questioning it, I kind of start wondering, is the devil talking to me right now and using my own, and it's icky. And that's what LifeWise is. I want to tell you, they've taken it off the web, but they've taken it off the web because people started talking about it. I mean, they don't see anything wrong with these things that they publish until people start bringing it up, and there starts to be, more chatter, negative chatter about it. So they took it off, but it's still out there. People downloaded it before they took it off, but it's the LifeWise Academy, difficult questions from students. And there's all kinds of, questions that this is like a guide for the teachers or the volunteers that are helping with the classes. And,
I
there's,
could just picture
I know.
wonderful, good moms thinking they're doing what's best for their kids and reading these and trying to answer the kid and be like, wait a minute, do I believe that? And being like, yeah, I can just see it happen in real time, you know?
Right, right. So
It
here's one question. How can I honor my parents who do not follow God? So their recommended response is we can't expect people who don't love God to follow him, but we should still be respectful toward them and try to live peacefully with them. When faced with a choice to obey God or our parents, we should always obey God first. So any unknowing parent that is, their kid wants to go to this program because their friends are coming with candy and trinkets and, and pressuring them to go, saying like if you don't go to church, you're going to hell. Any like impressionable kid that comes, that is taught this, and that's undermining their parents. And it really can mess a young child up where the parents don't know, maybe because the child is afraid to talk to them.
Oh, you don't get your kids do not come home from school and tell you what lessons the teacher taught. I've never had that happen. I ask
Right.
detailed questions about what's happening at school. Like I'm like, Asher, how was your school? How was your day today? It was great. But you didn't tell me anything about it. Then I get pictures from the teachers on Class Dojo. They did shaving cream spelling words all over their desk. I'm
Yeah.
like, that looked amazing. He didn't tell me. I wouldn't have
Right.
known if the teacher wouldn't have put it on there. This what makes me so mad is there is an attack on public education in Indiana right now by our state government, and they are really big about making sure parents know exactly what's being taught in the classroom. Like they want teacher lesson plans and they want all this detail. But here we can't get this Bible study school thing that's being taught outside of the building. We can't get many details about what's happening there. It's like, well,
Yeah.
if it's Christian, we don't care. They're fine. But if it's a public school teacher that's trained and educated and teaching the standards, we better not trust them, you know?
Right. I went to a community meeting a couple weekends ago, and the presenters were from this group. LifeWise is trying to get in Oldham County, Kentucky. In Kentucky, they have to go through the school board. So there's a group of people with Kentucky uh, Citizens for Democracy who have they were hit with the LifeWise situation before we were over here in Indiana and Floyd County. So they had time to do a lot of homework. One of the presenters, one of the speakers, she's a retired school administrator and maybe a assistant superintendent or something. But she said that she took a weekend and she read through the entire, she studied the entire curriculum. And the curriculum has nice character headings, like
So if you
gratitude,
just looked at the headings, it looks
generosity.
okay. It looks
Yes, but like
nice.
she said, for example, under patience, the teaching under patience, they talk about Noah's Ark, and they tell the students that there were 50 to 60 species of dinosaurs at the time that Noah was filling the ark up. And they, of course, you think you're not going to get a dinosaur on an ark. Well, their lesson says they were
So
adolescent
it's not science
dinosaurs.
based. It's not
Yes.
science based because we know
No.
humans and
No.
dinosaurs
They said
didn't
that the
interact.
dinosaurs were
They got
adolescents because
millions
they
of
couldn't
years
take the big ones.
apart.
They couldn't reproduce. So they took adolescents, and that's under patience.
I don't want my kindergartner learning that.
No,
I don't want them
no,
learning. And then they're at
it's
such an
very
impressionable
confusing.
age. Oh yeah, it's be so. And then you're told, "Well, choose God and not your parents." So you're just like, "I guess my parents are stupid and they don't know this. I'm gonna have to." And like, what it like teaches them to keep secrets from their parents,
Right. It
which
totally
is like,
undermines parental
which is
authority.
a really important thing. It's one way like abusers get in. They
Yes.
like say keep it a secret from your parents. Like that's so terrible to
Right. And it's
teach
like
that.
when faced with a choice to obey God or our parents, we should always obey God first. Well,
But
how are
that's
you going
not
to
God.
obey God?
It's this
Who's going to tell
curriculum.
them?
It's
Who's
who
going
wrote
to
this curriculum. This isn't God, you
and
guys.
guess
This is
guess who's going to be there to tell them what God wants them to do? They're not going to go to their parents if they know that their parents don't believe in God. They're not going to go to their parents and say, "What do you think God wants me to do in this situation?" They're going to go to somebody from LifeWise, if they've been going to the program.
because
Um,
that's how you keep it in the circle. It's got to be the LifeWise people. Yeah.
exactly, and they're so impressionable, and it's so wrong. And there's all kinds of other questions on in this difficult questions from students uh, that would just make you cringe. They say that gay couples are going to hell,
Oh.
um, and that's it's. Can you imagine being a young child with two moms and someone telling you that as a
Or
young
a family
child?
member, a relative, a friend. Most of us in 2025 love someone that is in the pride community.
Yep, yeah, yeah.
And
It's
maybe they're coming to terms with maybe they have feelings and they're trying to get it figured out who they are. And so then they're like, "Oh, well if I am me, I would go to hell." And I know people that grew up this way and it was so hard for them to be them.
Yeah.
Some of
I
their
was
family
I was
didn't
told,
accept
like
them.
we were told, I wanted to be a good, loving person, and that's why I went to church, and I trusted, that these leaders were preaching the love of Christ, and teaching me how to be a good person. And, I was taught, it's like, people get upset, like, why are they so hateful? Evangelicals don't see themselves as hateful. When you're told that, if you have a loved one who is gay and they're getting married, and you're told that the loving thing to do is to not condone their sin because they're living in sin, they're going to hell, they're not living a full, in the fullness of Christ by being gay, that the loving thing to do is to not go to their wedding, and not so that you're not condoning sin. And so it's like this mind warp. You don't understand that
Again, the
what
hell
love
heaven thing
is.
really
Love,
tricks.
yeah, love accepts somebody exactly who they are. And evangelicals have not learned that. If you say that to love somebody is to accept them exactly that how they are, they are always gonna object. They're always gonna say, well, and they're gonna go back to the rules that they were taught. Like you can't do this, and it's like this heaven and hell aspect of their life is very big and it's very real, and it's left them open to tarnishing the love of Christ, the message of the love of Christ. That's they're not. When you get Christian nationalism is not about Christianity. It
It's
is
brought
not.
it, it
It's
it's
not
it's a
about the
way to
love of
control
Christ.
people. It's a way to
It
control
it it is
people.
a way to
And
get
it's
power, and they say that they want to get Christians in every aspect. They think that our nation should be a Christian nation from top down. And the founder of LifeWise, Joe Penton, he was a Ohio State football player. He was on a program recently. It's a Christian, evangelical program, a podcast,
oh yeah,
and
I think they have a lot of their own entertainment and movies and all kinds of
right.
stuff.
And these are not places that you or I are going to listen to.
Mm-mm.
So they feel more free to say what their intentions are. And I recommend watching this video. It's really well done. It is on the Secular Education Association's YouTube page. And they posted it within the last 2 weeks, but it sent chills down my spine. The interviewer was asking Joe Penton, or talking to Joe Penton about, that this country is our country, meaning like Christians, because they are Christians, because they're evangelicals. And the state is our state, and the schools are our schools. Like
Wow.
they see this as theirs for their taking, and they don't care who's getting hurt in the process. They don't care that kids are losing instruction time. They do not care that kids are getting bullied and told that they're going to hell if they don't, if they don't go to church. Or that their parents. I just can't. Can you imagine a
It
young
is
child being told that their parents that they love are going to hell, and because of who they love.
yeah, it's scaring them. It's scaring the kids to get to do what they need to do because they don't want to go to hell,
Right,
you know.
exactly. So,
So,
but
yeah, okay. So
yeah,
I just
so
want to
that's
side
Christian
note.
nationalism. They're taking over, and if if evangelicals want their kids to go to a religious instruction program, fine. By law, they have the right to do that.
They can go to a
But
religious
but
school.
but they should not be using that as a way to market to other children.
So
That is
they're being
the
told
school.
inside that group, the LifeWise, that this is their duty, that they have the right to be in our schools, to be in our state, to be in our government. So we need to realize this is part of their religion. And that's why they're
Yeah,
doing this. So it's not the typical Christian that you're thinking of, and this is more malicious, and they want to get your kids as young as possible. So, first off, if you are listening to this and you're in this religion, you don't have to be. there are lots of different religions. So you and I both got out of our own versions of this happening.
Mhm.
But if your religion tells you how to vote, if your religion doesn't let you ask questions, if you can't do critical thinking and having in-depth questions and discussions about your religion and your morals, there's a problem there. It's more of an authoritarian type religion where they're
Yes.
like, "You listen. Here is what you're being taught. Here's the rules. You follow this." And that is not healthy. So, I encourage you to do some of your own soul searching because maybe you can get out and see if you're sending your kids to these type of Sunday schools, if they're going to a LifeWise program, do some investigating and see if you can get them out. Because it's not the nice cushy Bible school that you're thinking it was. You're being misled and they're hiding this information from you, but you can research. There are stuff. What's that Facebook group? I'm on a Facebook group now that tracks this in Floyd County. Do you know what that's called?
So in
Is
Floyd,
it the secular?
do something. Are you talking about do
Is do
something?
some Okay, so do something has one. It's
So
talking
I'm
about it.
working with do something. If we're based in Southern Indiana, and we're trying to educate people about LifeWise. We need and there's also a really good one. It's there's these groups are based in Ohio because LifeWise has been in Ohio all throughout Ohio. And there have been issues upon issues upon issues with the
And it's
with
going to be
people.
happening here. It's
Absolutely. I
just
mean,
started
it's
a little
it's
bit, but it's going
terrifying.
to
I
be
mean,
growing.
kids. I mean, there was one of the parents that's in this. It's called Secular Education Association.
Yeah. Okay.
It
I'm on
used
that
to
one
be
too.
called Parents Against LifeWise, but really, any RTR, Release Time Religious Instruction program,
There's probably more than just
could do
LifeWise
this.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just LifeWise has like corporatized this RTRI instruction, and
I'm
they
horrified that
forced.
it's in Floyd County because Floyd County schools are good public schools. I wonder how many parents even know this is happening in the schools, and even if your kid isn't going to it, it's hurting your kid's instruction time. I wonder if
Right,
they are
and there,
aware.
this is so new. Like our in Floyd County, our school board doesn't have a policy that has kept up with the change in the law. Or, if you look at the RTRI policy, it's from like 2006, 2016. I can't remember, but Indiana's law changed in 2024, and when you as a parent, if you sign the permission slip to participate in LifeWise, you are saying, I agree not to sue LifeWise.
Ooh.
So, this is really a message for the schools. The schools need to wake up to all school boards, all parents. You need to be aware that your school right now needs to get a school board, update their school board policy, because in Indiana, they're coming in whether or not you like it. They're getting ready
So
to air in theaters. They're gonna air their documentary, which is basically going to be all the propaganda that they've been airing. They will say that their program decreases tardiness, that their program increases attendance. They're going to say all these things that have been, of course,
LifeWise is going to be releasing a documentary of propaganda to help get the 20 steps through so that this can get pushed out into more schools in Indiana and
yeah.
across the
Well,
country.
it's a film
It's a
that is going to
nationwide.
be in theaters nationwide starting this
Wow.
month.
And so people are
Um,
thinking they're going to a good Christian movie, but it's actual propaganda for LifeWise.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't know that you're watching propaganda, you don't know that you're watching propaganda.
You just think, what a great idea.
It's going to sound like, the most wonderful thing that's happened in for schools, for students. And the message I want to make sure that I get across is that the school boards need to update their policies, because LifeWise, they are not they don't require the same background checks as our public schools
Yeah, our
require.
public schools have to have a background check.
Well, and they require more extensive. Now, LifeWise will do their own background checks, so that's where, one way you can keep kids safe and keep the school board from, open to liability is, having a policy where you're going to require certain background checks for them to come into the school, and that they're going to have to comply with things like you cannot give the children things to take to other kids,
Oh
like
yeah, you could put that in the
proselytizing. you
policy.
you are
Yeah.
not, and
So this hasn't happened in Harrison County yet, in a bunch of other counties in Indiana.
now
So
they are in the steps. Like if you go to LifeWise program, or there's also Respect Public Schools is another Ohio-based website where they track the stage that LifeWise is in. They've figured out how to pull information from LifeWise's website, and so you can see it on a map
I've seen
where
this map. I've
where
seen it on
life yeah
Facebook, on groups. I've
where
seen this map where
LifeWise is,
it
and
is, and it's started, the process has started, and the process has started in a lot of places. Like
yeah.
I was like, "Oh, wow." So if you haven't heard of LifeWise yet, chances are you may soon because they are going through the process to start it. So what can we do? Let's say that you are a concerned parent, you send your children to public school, especially your young children to public schools, or you're going to. What can we do to protect our children from this? So you're saying school boards should update their policies to stop at least some of it, but they can't, if the school board says you shouldn't leave for religious instruction, that doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. No,
So
they're
they
not going to be
can't
able to say
stop
that.
it. School
Not in
boards
Indiana.
cannot
There
stop
are
it in
there are
Indiana.
states there are states whose laws require LifeWise to be approved by a school board. That's not the case in Indiana anymore, since 2024.
So we could
And
have a state law. We could change the state
we
law
could change the state law. Yeah,
in
and we should. And we should.
2026 to
Yes, we
stop
should.
it.
Yes.
That's a possibility if we vote for people that would help pass legislation to stop this from happening. That could happen, you
That's
know.
the long term. That's the long term solution. Yeah. But right, in short term, you can we need school boards to be aware of the risks
Oh, I
that come
bet most
along.
school board people are not
They
aware.
they're busing. In Greenville, I think they have a nice uh, situation where the kids can walk to the church where it's being held, so they don't have to get on a bus. But you've got people that aren't with the school who are transporting kids to another location to have these classes. And they're not doing background checks that, to the extent that the schools do background checks. And there's just a whole host of things that open up school boards to liability because of this. And so we need to have policies in our school boards that protect the schools
My
and
guess is
protect the kids.
there's going to be terrible things happening, and
Yeah.
then the schools are going to get sued, and
Yes.
then the school boards are going to start enacting it.
Right.
Unless
And
there
you've
are
got to get
people on
ahead
the
of
school
it.
boards that are really informed, like you guys can send this to your all school boards in Indiana. If you know a school board member, send this episode to them.
Yes.
It's on podcasts, it's on YouTube, it's on Facebook. Send it to them. It's on our website, Project Next Indiana. You can subscribe and get it as an email. You can send that email out to people, but see if your school board members will watch this, because Floyd County needs to make policies to at least stop the propaganda inside the school and protect the people that are educating in the Bible school people, the adults doing the teaching. Make sure that they are safe people. Yeah. So okay, so that's one thing we can do. And that's something we can do. We can research who our school
Yes.
board members is. We can get this information out to them. Is there anything else? Vote for people that are against this. I would say talk to all of your public school kids' parents.
Yes. You need
Yeah.
to, we need to inform community members because this is brand new. it is by design that, not until like step 7 or 8 does the community realize that LifeWise is already here in your community.
Right. It's
And
already
that is
happened.
by
Yeah.
design.
Yeah.
And so, everyone's caught off guard because of separation of church and state. And this is not like a club. I don't know if you remember back years ago, there were people saying that, FCA shouldn't be in, an after school club because it's religious. And, it was determined that all school clubs should be treated the same, no matter, if it's
Yeah.
religious or
I
not.
attended a Bible study after school in high school with a kid that ran it. Yeah.
But
And it
this is
was a
not
nice
this is
person.
not what this is. This is a
Right.
different thing.
Yeah.
Because no other, the chess club is not taking kids out of the instructional day on a weekly basis. This is the only reason that RTRI, release time religious instruction, exists is because the Supreme Court determined that it is a right of parents to be able to do that, to get their kids religious instruction during the day and not have their kid penalized for attendance. So this is a completely different thing. Your school should have a release time religious instruction policy, and the schools cannot, because this is a religious, the schools should not be promoting this. They should not be encouraging or discouraging children to go. They shouldn't be handling any of the paperwork for the permission slips. They should.
So there's laws to try to protect the separation of church and state, but they sure seem blurry right
But
now in
but
Indiana.
because this is so new, because this
Right.
is such a new thing, like our school system seems to be treating it like a club. They are using public resources to promote this program right now in
Oh, that needs to stop.
Greenville Elementary. Like LifeWise was at their open house. They cannot be religious time release instruction programs cannot be at open houses. You
But they
cannot
were. So
use
they should not be in your open house.
no, they shouldn't. And they should not be promoting them on the school Facebook page or the
So parents
website
can voice
or the
concern.
news.
So if
Yes,
you're a
they
parent and you're seeing
parents
your
can make
kid's school
sure.
do this, you can point this out by the law, Indiana state law. They should not be doing that. And that will hopefully help stop what we can control in this situation.
And that's not just Indiana. That is First
The
Amendment
whole
establishment
nation. Okay.
clause.
That's good to
Yes, I
know. So
mean that,
nationwide.
a separation of church and state. This is not like the FCA. This is something totally different. And if you like, there are programs that used to be out there under release time religious instruction. There have been other programs, and so there's stuff out there that's 20, 30 years old on the internet. And if you ask Google, can religious time I'm sorry release time religious instruction be at open houses, they will say no, because there is plenty of information out there, guidance even for these programs, on how to keep it under the I'm not sure. I might have misspoke earlier with the Supreme Court ruling. The three things are: it cannot be on school property, they have to provide their own transportation, and parents have to approve it. So that's a
Right.
big
That's
thing.
why they're
Like,
getting their news.
people are not going to just start bringing your kids off campus and taking them to a religious, like, parents
Right.
do have to
Parents
approve
would have
it.
to sign up to it, but parents are a little bit misinformed about what this is. They think it's going to be this
Absolutely.
sweet, loving Bible study. They don't realize this is propaganda to kind of
Yes.
manipulate your child into this kind of scary religious views. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to end this episode. If you want religious content that is warm and fuzzy, last week I did an episode with my high school friend, Scott Johannesmeyer, who co authored a book called Jesus Was. And it's a bunch of stories from people explaining how Jesus lived and how that shows we should love everybody. We shouldn't be judgmental. It's a more progressive take on Jesus. if you are, thinking Sarah's here bashing religion, go to that episode. It's a mental fitness from last week. And also, I would encourage you, you might want to read this beautiful book that just came out last week, Jesus Was. You can get it on Amazon or wherever you get your books. Because I think that's what you're saying, Chrissy, was missing from when we both got sucked into evangelicalism.
Yeah.
we didn't want to. I was going to a Methodist church. Well, you went with your friend, but we really got
Mhm.
sucked into it. So yeah, I would recommend that book and also that episode if you want to talk, because I bring up religious trauma. I bring up my youth pastor, and to hear Scott, who's a pastor, speaks so well and lovingly, and he's totally open to questions and dialogue, and let's discuss this religious stuff, like he's open to it. He's not like, no, you can't ask a question, I'm going to tell you what to think, which is what we're saying. This is what LifeWise is. They tell your kids what to think. We just kind of need to separate what's manipulation and what is religion, and they're
Yes.
different. And I am upset about Christian nationalism. I see it hurting the country, and um it does concern me. And now I'm more concerned because I didn't know until you started messaging me, Christy. I didn't know about LifeWise. So we do need to get the word out. I cannot thank you enough for coming on the program. Feel free to come
Can
on.
I do a
Oh, you
quick
sure
plug?
can. Go for it.
Okay. So I've been working with this organization called Do Something Southern Indiana, and on their website, or I'm sorry, on the YouTube, for Do Something Southern Indiana, we recorded the community meeting that we had a couple of weekends ago with Kentucky Citizens for Democracy. It is the best community meeting
No
that
good.
I've ever been to. Those speakers knew what they were talking about, and there is a pastor that speaks. It's a two-part. There's two different parts to the video that's on the YouTube. But there is a minister that speaks. He's lives in Oldham County, so he was
There are a
in the.
lot of religious leaders against this. A
Yes,
lot of
yes,
them. A
yes.
lot.
A lot of
Yes. I
Christian
know that.
religious
Yes. I
leaders,
know
and
that
he
Methodist
he
Church would not be supportive of this.
yeah, and he
Yes.
breaks it down so good. Why this is so dangerous to be putting in children's minds, and
And
how
such young
it does
children.
not represent the love of Christ whatsoever.
Right.
Um,
And you were
sorry, go
15
ahead. I
when
didn't
you
want
were
to
indoctrinated.
interrupt you.
You were 15 and I was also a teenager. So it's really scary that they're doing this to like kindergartners, but it also works on teenagers. We
Yes,
want to be good. We want to follow the rules. We want to be told. And this is such heavy propaganda. It's so well organized. They know how to scare you. They know what emotional things to say to you to get you in that little box of where you need to live so you don't see the real world anymore. Um,
yes,
so we need to protect our children. We need to do the work to do what we can to stop this in schools. I would also say we might want to warn principals and superintendents that this hasn't happened yet, that it's coming. Be ready. It's going to happen, right? In every school system in Indiana, in every public school system in Indiana, LifeWise is going to get in there.
yes. They have a plan to expand
Yes.
all throughout
So
Indiana. In Floyd County, they have a plan to get in every school in Floyd County. I'm sure whatever county in Indiana that you live in, there is a plan to get in every school in that county. I
it's
yeah,
gonna hurt my first graders
yeah,
because they're not gonna go to it. I'm not gonna sign them up to it, but other students are, and then it's gonna hurt their instruction time.
yes,
And I worry about the other kids. The parents at my kids' school are wonderful and they're so sweet. And I know some of them are going to think, "Oh, great, Bible study for my kids during school. This is a wonderful thing." And it could cause harm to these children. It
mhm,
could cause division because they're told not to listen to their parents. It's going to cause harm. And so I am upset. I can tell that you are too, that this is
yes,
going to happen. We can help do by having the show, but we can't stop it. We can vote better, everybody. We can make
yes,
sure our state house and our state senate people know about it and could try to pass legislation to stop this, put it back on
yes,
the school boards, do certain steps to stop it. But I think the best thing we can do right now is to just educate everybody about LifeWise. Let everybody know it's already here in Floyd County. It is coming to every public school in the state, and it's already happened in Ohio. They're trying to get it through in Kentucky, but they got the school board staff to go through, so it's going to get through some of them and it's not going to get through some of them. So
Mhm.
who knows what it's like in other states. If you're watching this from another state and you know any information, please fill us in on what's happening in the other states, because we can all just work together. Thank you to everybody that is doing work to shine a light about this. I can't believe the parents that put it on their website got sued. I mean, I guess I can, but just trying
Yeah,
to
I
show where
mean,
the
they're
curtain
slick.
is.
These are slick businessmen. This is not about the love of Christ. They have a state director position for Indiana that pays 90,000 a year, and
Wow.
it is an aggressive sales position. Like it is they're the state Indiana state director. There's also a Kentucky state director position open for $90,000 a year, starting at 90,000, and it is absolutely just, it is all about
It's
marketing
so well
and
planned
money.
and organized,
Yeah, we
right?
didn't even talk about the money. I mean, it's a burden because the communities that they're in are expected to raise the funds for the program. And I mean, LifeWise, the money that LifeWise makes, I mean, they're a nonprofit. It's public
So that's
information.
probably a big reason for this, is they're making money off of
Yes,
this.
absolutely. I mean, have you I don't know if you've heard about the religion business or the business of religion. I'm
Yeah.
not sure what the
I
documentary
learned more
is,
about
but
it with that music, the Christian music two-parter, and make a lot of money off of that.
oh yeah, yeah.
And
So
then
this is
if you follow, I've done a couple get the words out with state legislators. I just did one with Carrie Hamilton a few weeks ago. And through those episodes, if you want to watch that, you can see how lobbyists get their stuff passed, and they know the loopholes. They're passing it with loopholes in there, so they know what to do to get their agenda through. So energy
yeah,
companies have done this. Big giant billionaires can pay for lobbyists to lobby the our elected officials to get their stuff passed, and that's what happened with this. That's how LifeWise was able to get in there. And it's sad, and we need intelligent people in these elected spots,
yes,
and we need to put a lot of public pressure on them to do better to protect our children. We need to
yes,
protect
yes,
our children.
absolutely. That's the number one thing. We have to
Our
protect
children
the
deserve
kids.
better.
Yep.
They deserve better than this. Yeah, yeah. It's sad because I'm always advocating for public schools and how good they are, even though they're being defunded in Indiana, they're still great. And this is just another, it's just
Yes.
another hit on them.
Yeah, it's really, it feels like our legislators are working against us.
Yes. Yes. If we have a super majority, that happens. It doesn't really matter which side it is, but when there's a super majority, which ours is Republican in Indiana right now,
Yep.
they don't have to listen to the people anymore. And I would imagine most Hoosiers would be against this if they knew the truth.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. Like we are
Yeah.
in the majority,
We're in the majority.
this feels overwhelming, but when we unite with a united message and a united voice, that's when we win. And we just have to start speaking up.
Yeah, and we'll keep going. Let me
Yes.
know when new things change. Let me know when there's new organizations that are fighting and you can come back on. I'd like to have you on for some other discussions. I know we talked about doing an evangelical episode a few months ago, so it was nice to have you on.
Uh,
Scary subject.
Yeah, but it needs to be talked about
It needs to
because
be talked about, and we got to protect our
it is the
kids.
reality of like it is intertwined in our politics and it is by design and it has nothing to do with the love of Christ.
Nope. And while this is scary, I am very thankful to everybody like you and everybody at Do Something in Southern Indiana. There's a lot of my friends in that group. I'm just very thankful to everybody that's doing the work. Thank you for all the parents in Ohio that's already put out a bunch of work so that we're not completely
Hmm.
starting over with what do we do with this. So so thanks. Organizing
Thank
works.
you.
It just takes time. Don't give up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank
hopefully I'll
you.
have you again on soon. And I like getting to see you at events everywhere. And you have the world's best hair. I love your hair
Oh,
so much. If
thanks.
you're listening to this podcast, she has gorgeous curly hair. Yeah, and we have a kid name in common, which is cute. I met one of
Oh
your
yeah,
kids one time.
Asher.
That's Asher. We got the Asher name. Means happy. So I think it's
Yes.
cute. So,
Yes.
yeah. So yeah, thank you, Kristy, for doing this. Thank you for all the work you do in your community. We run into each other a lot because we're both fighting for a lot of the same things to
Hmm.
make the state better for the future, for our future, for our families, for everybody else's family. So I appreciate all that you do. And thank you for listening, everybody. Please send this to someone. Please send this to a school board member if you know anybody.
Yes.
I have a friend whose dad is one. I'm sending it to him tomorrow and
Good.
see if I can get him to listen. We need to inform people that this is coming or already here. So yeah.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Please. Oh, please leave us a review. If you, wherever you watch us, leave us a review. We're trying to get the reviews up. If you hated us, just leave us a mean comment. Don't leave us a bad review. But if you liked us, please leave us a review. Okay. Thank you guys. And good luck. And let's protect our children. Bye,
Thank you.
everybody.